Okay, we are live everywhere. Just for those in the room, looks like there was an issue with the agendas on the podium. Corrected agendas for tonight's meeting are on the way out of the printer, and Craig will be in with those shortly.
Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to the May 21st, 2025 meeting of the Henrietta Town Board. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Here.
Councilmember Belanca,
Here.
Councilmember Barley,
Here.
Councilmember Stafford,
Here.
Supervisor Schultz.
He is also here.
He's down.
Thanks for tripping on that. That's right. Cord. Here. The volume in here was awfully loud and causing reverb, so I just turned it down and then tripped on my way back up to the podium. All right.
We call it a Dick Van Dyke.
That's right.
Nice catch, Justin.
All right, we'll begin the meeting with a silent prayer followed by a pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the April 30th, 2025 Town Board meeting.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have Resolution 9-199, 2025, whereas Nathaniel F. Warren has achieved the rank of Eagle Scout in the Boy Scout Troop 750, and whereas to achieve this rank, Nathaniel earned 36 merit badges, including aviation, where he was able to overcome his fear of flying and fly a plane, a rifle, where he learned to safely operate and shoot the gun, and in doing so, he earned the Bronze, Gold, Silver, and Palm Award for going above and beyond the requirements for Eagle Scout. And whereas during his time in Scouts, Nathaniel served as a den chief, troop guide, patrol leader, assistant senior patrol leader, and the senior patrol leader in addition. He received the Order of Arrow Brotherhood, Den Chief to Pac 332, and earned the National Outdoor Award, Camping. And whereas Nathaniel will graduate from Western Sperry High School in the spring of 2025, where he volunteered for Special Olympics and the Natural Helpers Service Organization, with plans to attend Mercyhurst University in the fall of 2025. And whereas for his Eagle Project, Nathaniel led efforts to revitalize the Lehigh Valley Trail system in Henrietta, building and installing 2 mile marker posts, with a third one constructed for future mile marker replacement, and constructing a picnic table for the East Henrietta Road trailhead. Therefore be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board joins the Pinnacle Lutheran Church, sponsors of Troop 750, in recognizing the achievement and honor of Nathaniel F. warring and obtaining the rank of Eagle Scout.
Second. So as I've said many times, it's very heartening to do these resolutions and just, learn of what some of our youth are doing, and just very comforting to see the caliber of some of these students, whether it's the Youth Hall of Fame, the Eagle Scouts, Gold Star recipients. There's some great kids, bodes well for the future of Henrietta.
Congratulations, Nathan, and we all wish you the best of luck in the future in college and in the rest of your life. That's a great thing to have on your resume. There's not a lot of young men that have that as part of their resume, and you should be very proud. They don't give them out; you earn them. You did very well.
Congratulations, Nathan.
Just congratulations and best of luck.
Time for a picture.
I don't,
Nathan's not here.
no, he
Okay.
was not able to make it. Does anyone wish to add any comments from the public? Then hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 9-200, 2025. Whereas Karen Lankenshofer has donated $300 to the Henrietta Public Library for bike racks. And whereas a check in the amount of $300 was received by the library director. Therefore, be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board acknowledges this donation and thanks Karen Lankenshofer for her generosity.
Second.
So Karen is a regular advocate for biking, adding biking lanes, bike routes, bike racks. And it's nice to see when someone is passionate about that stuff that they also are willing to put their money where their mouth is, for lack of a better way to put it. Karen also has served on a number of our committees. She's part of our Waterfront Advisory Committee currently, and has done some other stuff. So very active in the community, and like I said, it's great to see her help us achieve some of the goals that she's reaching for. So thank you, Karen. Any other comments, questions?
Congratulations, Karen.
Thank you.
Well done, and thanks for your donation.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 9-201/2025. Whereas the Henrietta Public Library Friends and Foundation Incorporated has donated $1,270 to the Henrietta Public Library for the summer character costumes, community bookshelves, and pollinator garden upkeep. And whereas the check in the amount of $1,270 was received by the library director, therefore be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board acknowledges this donation and thanks Henrietta Public Library Friends and Foundation Incorporated for their generosity.
Seconded.
So another great group. They do a lot to help our library. They run a number of fundraising events, including the book sales, and put those proceeds towards the library to help offset some of the costs, especially as as costs continue to rise. Unfortunately, state aid has largely stayed flat for many years, so it starts to create a shortfall, and it's nice that some folks are able to step in and help close that shortfall. Any other questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. We'll now go to our public hearings. Our first public hearing is for special use permit application number 2025-017. Larry Musson, and I apologize if I mispronounced that, 5119 East Henrietta Road, to have goats. Could a representative for this application come forward?
Hello, good evening.
Introduce yourself and tell us about the application.
My name's Larry Musson. Um, well, basically, a lot of people, when they get middle-aged or close to retirement, a lot of people want a lake house, a sports car, or some type of retirement toy, and I kind of wanted to just have like a little mini hobby farm. This is kind of how I wanted to start it.
What acreage do you have?
I have just shy of a half an acre.
And I don't suppose any of your neighbors are present to talk about whether there'd be an impact for them having the goats there.
No, but what I did was, and I did make 4 copies, and turned them in. I actually had my neighbor from each side of me. I typed up a letter of acknowledgement, my intentions, and I had them sign it and had it notarized. Then one of the neighbor right next to me is actually a very good friend of mine too. I actually would love to actually have them.
Now, are these what type of goats? And
They're actually Nigerian dwarf, Nigerian pygmy goats, Nigerian dwarf goats. They get about 40 to 60 pounds. They're very small.
What do you? I see the plans. I'm going to just reach out to Kevin Wilson, who's our Director of Building and Fire Prevention, in terms of for stuff like that. I don't know if we have any rules for setbacks. It looks like the pen itself is right in the northeast corner. Do you have any comments on that as far as should there be any setbacks in that regard?
Nothing far as keeping of animals other than what we have down in code for chicken coops. I'd have to look that up quick for you.
Chicken coops have to be a certain number of feet from the
Certain
line.
distance from the property lines.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have much for goats in the code because it's not a common thing. Someone asked, are you going to be doing goat yoga? Because I think that's the pygmy goats are typically the type used for
They
that.
are actually.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Have you purchased these goats yet?
I have not, absolutely not, not until I've gone through this process.
So can I,
Go ahead.
he's looking that up.
Yep.
So I did see your letter of intent, and so I do have a couple of questions on that. When you gave it to your neighbors, you said the purpose was for to have healthy eggs because you were talking about chickens too.
Yes, and
How many chickens do you have, or you already have the 6
Mhm,
chickens?
yep,
Do you have a coop for them?
yes, yeah, and I turned that in. That was a separate permit.
Okay, because I didn't see a chicken coop on your
The drawing?
drawing here.
Yeah,
So
well, it was on the other application. It
Okay.
was already approved,
Okay, but
and I have the permit for that.
okay,
On the plan where it is.
yeah, I'd just like to see where that is compared to this.
That's pretty much right in the left rear corner of my yard.
Okay, and then it says number 2 here. It says sufficient distance from the property lines, the coop and the run. You know how far that is?
Well, the goats were gonna be right to my fence line in the rear and on the right, if you're looking towards the back. And probably from my house. I think I had wrote it down on one of the pages. I gave you all my copies. I didn't retain a copy of my own. It was at least 40 feet
Okay,
from my house.
okay, and then it says get rid of the waste in a manner to eliminate. Well, how do you have somebody pick it up? How do
It
you
would
get
be
rid?
me.
Yeah, but what you do with, what do
You
you
have
do
to,
with?
I'm gonna bag it
Okay,
and dispose of it, probably multiple times a week.
okay. I just went through the letter and I've just had my questions, so.
Okay.
So,
It,
oh, go ahead.
oh, it says reasonable hours they'll be in the coop. What you consider reasonable? It's,
Talking about the goats.
well, I don't, it says the family will keep all chickens and goats enclosed in the coop. In enclosure until reasonable, hours daily and overnight. So what do you consider reasonable?
So chickens generally will go in at dusk
Right,
and then they come out, a little bit after dawn.
okay,
So they have to be in a coop to be safe from predators.
right,
That's as far as the chickens go. The goats, they'll stay in their enclosure, and I have a little, on the drawing, you'll see a little lean-to and a little shack that they would go into, it more or less for the winter time to protect them from the cold.
okay. And then when your neighbors did sign it, they did sign this letter, but if everybody didn't see it, it said, just telling you your intentions. It didn't say they agreed to it. They liked it, just said you told them of the intentions. So that's one thing. So then I've learned a little bit more about goats than I ever learned before since yesterday, since the last.
I only have one copy if you wanted to pass it around, but it actually gives you the specific characteristics of that breed of goat.
Okay,
And I know, like, noise would be an issue. They're
Right.
actually very quiet.
Right.
And again, tells about the size that they get.
so when I looked this up, are they considered miniature goats? I mean,
Yes, they're pygmy. They're pygmy goats.
So
They're the smallest goats that there are.
So these are going to be pets.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's,
Which is why it's under that section and not under ag.
right. So these are going to be pets. You never had goats in the past?
I have not.
Um, how big an area are they going to have access in the yard?
I think that is one of the letters, but
I,
it's approximately about 200 square feet in that one corner of the right rear part of the yard.
yeah, because when I'm
They
looking,
won't have free roam of the whole backyard.
okay, because when I was looking at this, it looked like, I didn't know if that was 90 square feet or what you had on the drawing here. It looked like 90, so I didn't know if it was only 90
It's
square.
possible. I did measure it. I thought I had wrote it down on one of the documents. But yeah, that could be right.
And the goat house is 48 square feet, because the reason I'm asking is like I said, I read up a lot about them last,
No, that's a 90 degrees, Mike.
90 degrees.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was 90 degrees. Okay. Yep, it's not. Thanks. Okay. Do you have feeding stations for them?
Yeah, I would have all the necessary feeding and watering for them.
Is there shade in the yard? You got trees and shade?
Yeah, there's actually a shade from the trees in the back because
Okay.
behind my house is all woods.
Okay, I didn't get over there.
Yeah,
So
so it's all wood, so they would have plenty of shade, but also that lean-to will protect them in the summertime, get them out of the hot sun. Then the little shack that I have, that would, protect them in the wintertime.
Okay, any roosters with the chickens?
No.
Okay.
Hold on one sec. Becky, while Mike's asking his questions, could you put in his address in Google Earth and then throw it up on the screen so we have the yard for reference?
Yeah, because your yard is completely boxed in by that white fencing, right? Is there a way to get under that?
No, and as a matter of fact, I'm gonna do a lot of protective measures, mainly for the chickens, so I don't have predators getting my chickens.
Because I know you got foxes and probably
Raccoons.
raccoons. It's probably some
You're trying to say coyotes.
coyotes out there for sure where you are.
Hmm.
And that could be a danger to the goats also.
Right.
They don't care what they get; they'll get anything. I don't know if you answered Mike's question, Larry, about how long the goats will be out or put in. I heard about the chickens. You said when they go in.
They're pretty much gonna be, they're out pretty
All the
much
time?
most of the time, yeah.
Okay.
But they tend to gravitate into their, to their little mini.
Okay,
Could you zoom in a little bit more? I just had a couple of questions that I wanted to.
The,
So there currently, you can see there's two sheds on there.
mhm.
Are those remaining? What's happening with those?
Yes, so that small shed, it's kind of, it needs a lot of work. So I can bring it up to par, so they have a nice area for them to be warm in the winter. But that would be their little mini barn, and on the side of it, will be a lean-to, which is basically a box cut in half to get them out of the hot sun.
So you're gonna move those to the upper corner there?
No, it'll stay the same. The lean-to will go right on.
Right.
Will go right where, the wire is.
Oh, I can't-
Is that the
Can't see where
right
you're-
corner that you're pointing to?
Yeah.
Right corner?
Right, in the right corner,
Right upper corner, okay,
yes. And it'll lean to right where
okay.
the.
You know, my concern with your property line, half acre is in lot land. That's one. And two, animals need room to run. And they're not even gonna have the whole area that you have fenced in to do so. Have you looked at, I know you probably know how to get rid of the feces from chickens.
Mhm.
Have you looked in how to get rid of properly the feces from goats? Because what we don't want to happen is that we have a health problem with the
Yeah.
community because of evil.
I would, that would be my, first assumption. That would be your main concern. And basically just, my plan would be to, double bag and, dispose of it in the garbage. And they're rabbit pellets.
Mhm.
They're the size of rabbit pellets.
If you look that up, there's probably a way to properly get rid of them organically instead of bagging them up too.
Well, most farms do use them, they compost them.
Okay,
So, I mean, if it was, I don't know if that's a lot, that would be okay, but I mean, I would compost if it was okay.
okay.
so the one article, the one thing I was looking at, it said for the miniature goats, for the structure, they should have, about 20 square feet for each goat. Meaning yours, if you had 6 of them, it would be 120 square feet. And if I was looking at your plan here, the structure was 6 by 8.
The Nigerian pygmy goats require 10 square feet each.
Okay,
They're small.
okay. So
They're, like I said, 40 pounds for a female, 60 pounds for a male.
I had you say the Nigerian?
Yeah, they're
that's what-
they're Nigerian dwarf goats.
That's what I have it.
Okay.
Nigerian goats, at least 15 to 20 square feet per feet of housing per goat.
Okay.
And then it also says, several feeding stations, with more than one per goat. So it means you'd have to have more than 6. And then it says, space for them, it's 135 square feet per goat. So you would need approximately 1,000 square feet there per goat for their travels, around the yard. So it just seems like a lot of goats for a small lot. I mean, my lot's just a little bit bigger than yours. It's a little bit over a half acre, and I couldn't imagine having 6 goats.
Well, yeah, after I filled out the application, she called me after the fact because I had never put down how many. And she asked me over the phone and I said 6. And, I was thinking maybe probably more like 4 would probably be more appropriate for the area. But in a lot of places, even the farms like on West Henrietta Road, at the Moose Lodge, they have goats there and they're full-size goats. And they're actually have a smaller area than I will have.
And then and Steve, or I'm not sure, Chris, will they have enough room between the chicken coop and the goat coop in the yard back there?
You say, mean separation between the two?
Separation or from the property line. I'm
Well, I
not,
mean, one of the things, so a couple of questions I have too in regards to your fence is, how high can the pygmy goats jump?
In every enclosure I've ever seen on any farms that I've been to, they use a 4 foot wired fence. And they don't get out of the 4 foot wired fence.
Your fence is about what, 6 foot?
Mine is 6 foot. So they're gonna be double enclosed. So they'll have their 4 foot wired fence for their area. And I'm gonna have things for them to do. I mean, I'll build little areas for them because they like to climb. You get the commercial wiring, the wooden things that they're left over after the commercial wires that are around them. I get those from, job sites and stuff, and they can climb on those. Actually, I got a picture of it. And it shows the fence and everything.
Steve, while there's a pause, chicken coops are 5 feet to the property lines. There is some other requirements as far as distance from buildings, but it's 10, that would be 10 feet from the applicant's structure, built a house, and then 20 feet from neighbors' houses. So
yeah, in the article I read too said real strong fence, obviously.
Oh yeah. They're the wired fence they're pretty heavy duty.
Yeah, it sounds like
So in my readings, I see numbers from 135 to 200 square feet of yard space and 10 to 13, or the highest I see is 16 to 32 for covered space. So if you look at that, the lowest number is 10. The 20 I saw, Mike, and I don't know if you read the same one. If you actually read it, it's 20 for the 2 goats. Someone had asked for 2 goats. I couldn't find one that said 20 per goat. Not sure where
this,
if you're using it.
right here. This, and actually it says housing, 15 to 20 per goat. And then below it actually says 20 for every 2 goats, just like you said.
Yeah.
So, but
That would line up with Larry said for 10.
Right. $20 for every 2 goats, yeah. That's funny that they,
in the same,
one says housing and one says shelter.
okay. So the housing is different than so the housing should be,
Yeah. I'm just wondering if 6 might be an aggressive start. Would you be willing to consider fewer than 6?
Yeah. I would say 4 would probably be a minimum because they are herd animals.
Right.
And when I'm at work, if I leave I don't want them to be stressed being alone.
Yep.
Well, then if you're doing, so then your 48-foot housing, that meets the 10, that's 10 to 12. The one says up to, you're pushing closer to 15, but that at least fits the size for the shelter, and then for the yard.
but how big is are you gonna keep them enclosed right near that pen? Where their house that you showed on the map here?
So that quarter of that
That
backyard
corner? Yeah,
will be where they would be able to free roam, and then because they like to graze too. So they'd have a little indoor area where they can be, which is mainly for winter purposes, and then a lean-to, which do your traditional farms, they have the lean-to with the sides, just to get them out of the rain, the wind, and the sun, mainly the sun.
So I think that's what in the thing they talk about, I think that's the difference between the housing and the shelter. Yeah, the shelter, the smaller, the 20 feet for 2 goats, I think was supposed to be for the lean-to.
so the housing,
The housing is that's the 48 square foot,
Yeah.
Chad, you were talking, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So the housing for four would be, between 60 and 80 if you had four.
Well, again, it depends. There's a range of numbers depending on what,
This is the one for Nigerian goats.
I understand.
Okay.
I've found 3 different sources for
Yeah.
Nigerian goats
Yep.
and all 3 of them have different numbers.
So anyways, I just want to know how the pen itself, how many square feet that's going to be, if it's going to be enough.
I thought it was on one of the documents I had given
You
you.
don't have the dimensions. You
No.
show it. I mean, you look at it, it's about half of your backyard, which is so that, I think that's about 40 feet wide. If it's also, I can't tell the depth, to be honest.
Well, a yard is 100 feet. It's 100 feet.
No, that I understand. So that's why I see,
So it's at least, it's right in the middle to the fence line. So that's 50. So
Right.
I would say it's at least 50 by 50.
right, so that would be 2,500, so that'd be plenty. Yeah, even if it was 40 by 40, you'd be looking at 1,600 and so, even at the 200 yards, that's double what's required, what's recommended. Because the numbers I saw for the yard space, it was anywhere from 135 per goats to 200 per goats. So I guess the only thing I would say is, a couple things that if they're, so what's that current white fence?
Tall,
No, what is it? What type of fence is it?
vinyl.
Vinyl? So are you gonna put wire inside of that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah. For their area. Yes. So it'll be a double enclosure for the most part.
and Kevin, when we say that the 5-foot limit for the chickens, is that for the coop building itself? Or does that also include the fenced in run area?
That, let's see, that was for the coop. Let me see here. Coops or cages, housing chickens shall
Okay.
be 5 feet.
So what I would say, Jess, and that'll shrink your yard a little bit, but if you run that wire, leave a space between your vinyl fence and that. Now, the thing you're gonna have a challenge with is, can you mow it or clear it?
Well, they'll do
They'll
it.
eat all that for you, won't they?
Well, no, they're gonna do the area there,
Yeah.
but my point is if they can't get quite to the fence,
Okay.
you might want to make sure you can, I don't know what kind of mower you have, but that you get a mower back
Can even
there.
get in there with a weed whacker.
Yeah. You won't have to weed whack the wire fence size because the goats will take care of it. So do Nigerian goats eat poison ivy?
I believe they do.
All right. I might have to have your goats pay a visit to my yard.
You know that they actually do that. There's a lot of utility companies.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah,
Steve needs to get rid of the poison ivy.
that's right.
I'd feel more comfortable with 3 myself, but
I do know with herd animals, you do want to,
company.
right.
Every
So,
article I read,
yeah, yeah.
everyone was the same on that. They do need
Yeah.
company.
Mhm.
I'd be fine with 4. I don't. 6, I definitely think is too high.
Well, that's why I asked him the question, had he bought them yet, because I think 6 for that area is way too much.
I would agree.
And not for nothing, but I wouldn't want to live next to 6 goats. I don't care what size they are. But 4 might be acceptable. I don't know about my comrades.
About what? Oh, comrades.
Yeah.
Okay. You good with 4? Okay, and so then we'll basically put a minimum. I'm gonna go a little bit higher, since the buildings are gonna be inside the fenced in areas, I'm gonna basically let's say we put a minimum of 1,000 square feet on the yard. He's gonna be bigger than that, but my point is I want to set a minimum.
Yeah.
That's 250, that way it takes, and then, again, I've seen the one I saw said 10 to 13 is for the size of the, square feet for the housing, but I did also see one that was 16 to 32. So the challenge will be right now, if he's using his existing, the 48 does work. I don't know where you're at in terms of where others are at, if we're okay with that or do we wanted to go.
I request that we make it a little bigger than that.
Yeah, so like I said, this one says 16 to 32. This one says 10 to 13. That,
So even at the minimum, at 16, it's 64, right?
if he did 16, he could do, with the existing building, he could have 3 goats. He would need to get a larger building to get that 4th.
So I guess, could you do 60, Larry?
16,
60 square feet? Could you do 60?
Well, like I said, the issue is right now, his existing structure is 48 square feet.
Okay,
At 16, that would be 3 goats. If he wanted to get more than 3 goats, he'd have to enlarge that
Right.
deck. But then this gets into the whole issue of maximum auxiliary structures. Do you still have the pool, out of curiosity?
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, it's not on. You got a pool in that yard too?
mhm.
Yeah, it was up on the screen earlier.
Oh, okay. I was looking at my before.
Larry, will they have any babies?
No,
Okay,
no. I'll get them when they're young, juveniles.
okay,
Because when they're babies, you gotta bottle feed them.
No, I think he was asking, are they gonna be breeding?
No,
No
no,
breeding?
no. You get the males; they're already fixed.
okay.
Yeah, and then some people do get them for dairy goats, and because they have really good milk, and you can make
Uh-huh.
goat soap. But no, for the most part, just
Larry,
That's-
one thing I didn't see in the readings is how long they lived.
um 10 to 15 years.
Okay.
So I will just note that with a chicken coop, it looks like is there a shed near the pool as well?
No,
Oh, okay, I can't tell. The Google Earth image isn't the greatest. I can't tell. There's a structure.
there's like it's like a pop-up gazebo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I got a little like one of the little plug-in.
Yeah, that's fine. Those don't count. But you might have to get a variance for the amount of shed space.
If it's 64 square feet.
Well, because you're also having a chicken coop. Right now, our code has a limit of 5% of your yard square footage in terms of for auxiliary buildings. I'm just letting you know, you'll have to check with building. The chicken coops count against that total, Kevin? Or because they get a special use permit, they're covered there? That's something I'm not sure on.
So the chicken coop gets its own permit. 1% lot coverage is what for accessory buildings.
But the chicken coops and goat coops count as accessory, I assume?
Yes, it would. I don't think he's gonna meet, well, we'll have to do the math on that. Our code is not specific as to if the chicken coops are included. The code just specifically says accessory structures.
Because the
Right.
chicken coop is very, very small and it's very much temporary. It's just a store-bought
So-
coop.
You're looking at about 2,000 square feet. Oh, no, wait. I'm sorry. 200 square feet. Got it off by it. And, oh yeah, so no, I guess I was thinking you know, I was thinking is that these sheds were staying, so this shed is gonna become your,
Yes.
yeah, so then you're all set. Yeah, you won't need the variance. I was just doing the calculation. You got about roughly about 200 square feet to work with for, you add up all your sheds. What I don't know is the shelter considered, since it's not an enclosed, it's arguably more like a gazebo, but. Okay,
So what were we saying, Steve, that, it was gonna be three if you have the furnace?
well, what we would just say, we'll approve them for a maximum of 4.
Okay.
But we'll require 16 square feet per goat. For housing.
Okay.
And then 250 foot for yard. Does that work?
Good for me.
Does that work?
I do, one other thing, because I know special use permits usually stay with the property. Any chance we can put it in here, it, expires when the owner moves or sells the property?
Is that legit?
That's legitimate.
Okay.
Does the shelter include that lean-to that I'm gonna have also?
In terms of no, this is the housing space. We didn't put a specific limit on the shelter size.
But the shelter's okay.
Okay,
Yeah, the shelter's fine. We're just saying you need to have at least 16 square feet for housing. And then 250 square feet for yard per goat. This is per goat.
okay, and the the lean-to that
That-
doesn't count as housing?
That does not count as housing, no.
Okay, because I mean, in some cases, the goats, that's all they have. The shelter part was actually something that I was doing extra for them. In some places, they only have the lean-tos for them on some farms.
They just stay out all winter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me personally, I don't condone it, but they
right.
do.
Yeah, and the shelter is supposed to be like 10 feet per. The shelter itself is supposed to be like 10 feet per goat. If it's, so.
Square,
so
yes, yeah.
This says square feet.
Mhm.
So if you add 4, it'd have to be 40 square feet.
What size is your shelter right now?
48.
Okay.
Okay. No, I'm sorry. What is the lean-to?
The lean-to is gonna be, I'm gonna go to the Giggling Pig in Caledonia and just, the Amish is gonna build it and bring it to me. So that'll be kind of a temporary thing too. It's gonna be 8 by 4, so that's another 32 square feet.
It'd be.
Well, because he's got the interior as well, like, so I think from a space standpoint, he's good in terms of. Yeah, so the big question is, can you add those two together with regards to or those?
I don't consider that how the lean to housing.
Yeah, okay. You want me to? Let's do this. Okay, if you could move to the table. Well, let me check first. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to comment on this application? Is there anyone online who would like to comment on this application? Okay, and hearing and seeing none, are we ready to close the public hearing and move to the resolution?
I'm ready.
Okay, I'm gonna close the public hearing for special use permit number 2025-017, 5119 East Henrietta for goats. Okay, so I'm not gonna move yet. I'm gonna say what I'm gonna just discuss what I'm gonna put forth to move is that we would have a maximum of 4 goats, that they are limited to the Nigerian pygmy goats. A minimum 250 square foot per goat for yard space, a minimum 16 square foot for housing space. The pen and housing has to be at minimum 5 feet from the property line. Why don't we just say that instead of that, I'm gonna say that the housing and yard needs to meet the same setback rules as chicken coops.
I'm good with that.
Anything else? Oh, and then we were gonna have that this expires
Upon change of ownership.
upon change of ownership.
Now we have housing and we have shelter, it's two separate. Two separate, or are we gonna, the housing itself, which is enclosed, is gonna be,
The housing is what I had for the 16 square foot. I didn't address the shelter. Did you want to put something down for the shelter?
well, it sounded like he was gonna get that lean-to, so.
Right, it was,
Okay.
or not shelter, I'm sorry, for the lean-to. Did we want to put a requirement for lean-to? Are we? Because he meets the requirement for the housing, I'm not as
I'm fine.
concerned about the lean-to. I don't know where you sit.
I just read, when we were reading, we said the housing and then the shelter were two different things, but we'll see how that goes.
All
Only
right,
the second goat project we had, and the other one had a barn. Yeah, you
I don't remember the other.
Lehigh Station Road near, where they were doing about the,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, vaguely,
They had a goat, but they had a barn
right,
and everything, so they were good.
all right. And we good? You want me to make the motion?
Because you got that. one.
Yep. Okay, I move that we approve special use permit application number 2025-017 for Larry Musson, 5119 East Janaretta Road, to have Nigerian pygmy goats up to a maximum of 4 goats with a minimum yard size of 250 square feet per goat and a minimum housing size of 16 square feet per goat. And that the yard and housing would have the same setback requirements as chicken coops. And this special use permit would expire upon change of ownership of the
Second.
property. So,
Second.
any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Congratulations.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you. Thanks. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too. Next up, we have special use permit application number 2025-018, Starbucks. 1012 Lehigh Station Road to construct and operate a restaurant with sit-down and take-out meal service, outdoor seating, and a drive-through.
Good evening, Matt Bucci on behalf of 1012 Lehigh Station Road.
This is I know it's a revisit, but if you could just, for people not familiar with the original application, you just talk a little bit about the application.
Sure. So last year we applied for a special use permit for a full cafe Starbucks with a drive-through at 1012 Lehigh Station Road. Unfortunately, timeline of events and approval of construction, we did have to amend our contract with our tenant, Starbucks. That is now all set and we're ready to go.
All right. And so for those unfamiliar, this is located on Lehigh Station Road, just west of the 390 overpass in the same area as the Taco Bell.
Mhm.
So, and there's no changes to the plans or anything like that. This is essentially
Right,
just not an extension because it came in too late.
right.
Yeah. All right. I don't really have any other questions, comments. Anyone else?
The only question after visiting Starbucks the other day with my wife and looking for a parking spot, I see you're gonna have up to 8 employees at could be up to 8 at any one time. And then you only have 23 parking spots. Is 15 parking spots gonna be?
Yeah, they typically have 5 to 6 employees at a time. 8 was kind of their max.
Okay.
But I mean, most of their service they do is through the drive-through, so that's why we have the extended queuing and everything. But I mean, the model is based off of Starbucks strict guidelines of having enough parking as well. So they seem to be a little bit more strict than Township when it comes to that.
Okay, and if I was looking at the plans right on the drive-through, which I want to know about, is there is an escape route in case you're sitting
Yes.
there. Okay.
Yeah,
It
and then
appeared to be that way. I just wanted to double check that, make sure.
Yeah, so I assume you're coming in from the west side of the property, you go down, loop towards the road and then circle back, and that's where you can see the second lane, that's the escape route.
correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And it'll fit the fire trucks and everything, and we do have to address the comments with the added fire hydrant. And we're aware of all that.
And the advantage of this one, at least so, Mike, is if, let's say they get to where there's an extra space that needed, at least right next door is another restaurant
Yeah,
that they could arguably park over there.
Yes.
All right,
You don't know if the owners of this, is this franchised or is this a
No, so there's very few franchises actually to start.
right?
So they only franchise on like air bases, airports, that
Okay.
sort of thing. So these are all corporate stores.
Okay, thank you.
any others? Anything else from the board? Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on this application? Anyone online? And hearing and seeing none, I'm gonna close the public hearing for special use permit application number 2025-018, Starbucks 1012 Lehigh Station Road.
Thank you.
Joe, I think, actually, yeah, rather than make you sit through the whole meeting, if you want to do,
Yeah, that's a great idea.
yeah, go ahead, Joe.
All right, Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I move that we approve special use permit application number 2025-018. Starbucks 1012 Lehigh Station Road to construct and operate a restaurant with sit-down and take-out meal service, outdoor seating, and a drive-through.
I think, second, I think there's an actual, resolution 9202,
Yeah, 9202.
but
You're right, right underneath it. Yeah, let me do that.
so
Apologies.
you just have to, basically why don't we just, I will just note that, that approval Joe put forth is formally contained in resolution 9-202. I don't know that we really need to, well, it would just be the summary, right? Yeah, go ahead, Joe. You can-
Okay, Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 9-202, 2025 to approve special use permit application number 2025-018 for a Starbucks coffee shop by 1012 Lehigh LLC for a new restaurant at 1012 Lehigh Station Road.
Second.
All right, any further comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Sorry, that's why I was asking you, because I'd seen that.
No, and I apologize for
No,
the
that's fine.
confusion. I was looking right at it and it didn't register.
All right, congratulations.
Thanks.
If you want to do, if they want to do a grand opening ribbon cutting or whatever, they can email me at supervisor@henrietta.org. And I'll connect them with the Chamber of Commerce, the Henrietta Chamber of Commerce.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Next up, we have a public hearing for special use permit application number 2025-019, Emerald's Events / Emerald Exclusive Decor LLC, 2199 East Henrietta Road, to operate an event space and banquet hall. Could you, do you want me to pull the easel up here for you?
No.
Okay,
Hi, I'm Danielle Howe. This is my husband, Isaac Howe.
you tell us a little bit about your application?
I'm an event planner, so I decorate for baby showers, wedding receptions, graduation parties, law enforcement. I go in, I set up table, chairs. I brought some examples of the things I do. So this is a baby shower that I did. Also a wedding reception. And this was my 50th birthday party that I set up last year. So, basically, I need the space, so if you want to come in and do your daughter's graduation party, you can rent out the space instead of going to like a hotel or somewhere and getting a banquet hall. The space will be used for that. I can go in, set up anything you want. You want me to set up in here, I can set it up.
So you actually don't do the catering, you're not doing are you doing
So
catering
what
too?
we
or-
do as far as the food is, he will cook the food. And he'll bring it in. We'll
Okay.
cook it at home and he'll bring it in.
But it's not like a banquet hall where you go in and everything's set up.
Nothing's gonna
It'd
be cooked inside of
okay.
there, no.
Okay,
It's just like an open space.
Right.
And I go in.
And now, is there also going to be storage for your, what was the decor where you have,
Where I have well, right now we have it in storage that we
Gotcha.
pay U-Haul, but
right,
Once
that's what
it's
I'm wondering, are
open-
you going to use a portion of this to also store some
Yeah.
stuff there? Yeah.
like my fold-up table and chairs.
So anybody renting from you will bring their own liquor?
So how that works is when you have a party, so say you have an anniversary party, you would get a 24-hour liquor license from the liquor authority. It's like a 3-day process you have to go through. You send in your ID, I send in my ID, they run all our backgrounds, and then they'll issue, it's like $40. They'll issue a temporary 24-hour liquor license. So say from 7 a.m. to like 3 a.m. the next day, and then after that, it's done.
Never heard of that before. That's kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
It's a 24-hour liquor
I
license.
knew restaurants could do something like that. I didn't.
It's called a special usage liquor license.
I didn't realize individuals could do that.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was restaurants only.
Well, this would be a business doing it, right?
Is this you doing it or is it?
it's my business,
Yeah, but my point is you're the one who gets the 3-day, not the person.
not the person.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll have to get it.
Okay.
And they only allow you, I think,
It's-
6 for that actual location.
Okay.
Yeah, it says limited number.
It's a limited
Yeah.
before you can start trying to get your real liquor license if that's what you want.
Right.
But we're
Okay, I
not.
misunderstood you. I thought these meant the individual.
No, I have to get it.
Yeah, there's a minimum or maximum number you can do per year. I don't remember, but
I
6.
think it's like, I think it's 6. Believe it's 6.
I didn't catch your full name and address.
Danielle Howe, the address of the place,
No.
my home address,
All
2194 Norton Street.
right. How long you been doing this, Daniel?
8 years.
Great.
I'm a nurse assistant too, so I've been doing that for 23 years.
Well,
And
that
it's
sounds
just like
great.
I want to do something, it's something, I like decorating. That's my thing.
Right.
I like decorating.
Now, is this the former DMV space or?
It's the building next door to the DMV.
Oh, okay.
It's in that plaza.
Yeah.
Well, banquet hall space is needed.
Yeah.
Always is, yeah.
Everybody gets married, everybody's having a baby.
And now do you also cater, like if someone's in another location, will you? If it's a spot that doesn't do its own catering? I'm just curious.
What do you mean? Like,
So let's say somebody rented one of our cabins and wanted it catered. Do you do that kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
catering too?
You mean
Yeah.
decorate?
I decorate to,
Well,
I travel to different, like, what do you call those like you said, the cabins? Cobb Hill, I just did a birthday party there 2 weeks ago.
gotcha.
Went in there and set up and decorated.
Great. Just looking through the couple of the other things.
Steve, Kevin, I got a question, just for clarification. Kevin Wilson, Director of Building and Fire Prevention. We are having events at this space at 2199 East Henrietta Road? Or is it just a warehouse space for your materials to take to other locations?
No, I will keep events there.
You will have events there.
The plan is to have events there, yes.
Okay, I wasn't clear to the earlier conversation. Thank you.
And what are the hours? I mean,
They vary,
okay.
they vary. What would be the good hours for you guys?
Well, people have parties all the time, day and night, so that's why he asked.
Yeah.
We usually have, is it just weekends, is it night during the day?
Night during the day, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people do day parties and a lot of people do evening parties, like a bachelorette party wouldn't be during the day.
Right.
It'd be towards the night hour.
But, you know, not that there's a lot of residents over there or anything over that way, but, you know, I don't think, at least I don't think I want, you know, parties at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, no, I wouldn't go to 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
I'm
they-
51. I want to be in the bed at least by no later than 2 a.m.
Oh, yeah, I see that 8x8 is your storage space. Gotcha. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of additional questions. It looks fairly straightforward.
The only thing I would mention is when I was reading through it, that the fire marshal said that there might be a need for a fire suppression system, but you would have to check with Kevin Wilson, our Director of Building and Fire Prevention. It wasn't clear whether it was mandated or not.
Okay,
Yeah, because it's an event space, it very well might. but
It
we'll
might be.
see. Yeah,
okay. We can check.
Kevin was the guy that you heard over the mic to ask the
Right.
question.
Okay,
yeah, it'll either be him or our fire marshal, Marty Megan, but. Okay, now I see where it is relative to the rest of the building. So you're near the
it used to be a bottle,
butter?
it used to be a bottle place there.
Yeah.
I used to return bottles there for one of my
Gotcha.
clients I take care of.
But now I think, was it like steak and butter?
Freeway,
Beef and butter, right
Beef
next
and
to
butter, beef and butter.
I think.
well, he's here, he's with me.
Yeah. Yeah, if you could,
The old archery space.
Yeah.
So it's all next to what is now the play palace, and in between that and the beef and butter. Which used to be
gotcha.
Yep.
And your name is Paul
all white.
White. All right.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Becky, were you able to hear him okay?
Not very well. Are you able to repeat that, Paul?
If you guys could let him get to the mic and,
Certainly, the location is going to be in the plaza, the portion of the plaza that's perpendicular to East Henrietta Road. So it'll be right next to what is now the Play Palace, used to be the DMV. It'll be in between that and what is now the Beef and Butter Company, which used to be Skips.
gotcha. Great. Okay. Appreciate that. And I will also mention, I appreciate that you've been aggressive in filling your plazas. Not all plazas are like that. Some of the plazas have let their places go downhill and,
We appreciate the towns working with us and, you know, approving special use permit
Right.
to get tenants like this. And I think this is going to be a really good fit for the plaza and for the community.
great.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, if I'd have scrolled down one more, it's all broken out. I had stopped one page too soon.
Yep.
All right. I don't have any other questions.
Do we want to put any
Right.
kind of time restriction on it? Or no?
We could, I mean, this plaza was gonna have a bar, which presumably. Yeah, I don't know if you want to do something earlier than that, but
You could do the same hours as a liquor license has.
which is,
I don't know, 1 or 2 in the morning, I
2
think.
a.m.
yeah, I think it's 2 a.m.
You know, and I realize she wants to be,
Again,
want to be on there long before 2 a.m.
right,
But
For 2, and
the,
I still have to clean up, so
Right.
I'll be in there, so
Yeah.
2.
we're not saying you have to run till 2 a.m. We're just saying you
Right.
can't go past that.
Right. but the
Okay,
special
that's
use
fine.
permit follows, so
right.
you don't know who, you know, somebody else might want to
Correct.
something else in there, so,
Okay,
or something like.
There's no chance of sound leaking out anyway, so.
Not easily, no.
no.
All right,
Sounds good.
so 2 a.m. So they basically cannot operate from 2 a.m. to 7, 9, what's in the morning?
What's your earliest parties usually?
um,
I'm fine with 7, so you might.
No.
might-
so, what you want? Well,
7's fine.
that's fine. Just-
We'll do 2 to 7.
I'm never gonna be in there that early.
Right.
At least I have the.
That's what you think.
I
I
whenever.
can go in and decorate. It give me time to go in and.
Correct,
everything
but you
up.
can't have, yeah,
Yeah.
the there can't be events.
Make your husband do the cleaning. You won't have to worry.
He does it. That's why I'm sorry, him. Just the muscle guy.
That's right.
He does work. And he pay for everything.
Yeah, so one of the things I'll just note that I want you to pay attention to, because we had another one of these places that they were notorious and they would store stuff in inappropriate places, including that potentially blocks access. So if, as an event space, you have to be very cognizant of your emergency egress. So do not store anything in hallways that lead to emergency exits, anything like that. That was, you know, we did have a problem with the location. So I just want to caution you that could get you shut down if they find that there's.
It's basically what I store the tables and chairs, and they like
Yeah.
fold up, so I
Well,
can push them like in a corner.
What you've got that they don't is you were looking to it's from reading this thing, it sounds like you were gonna build a storage space, a
Yeah.
storage room that presumably is not part of your egress. So the problem is they used it, there was a back hallway that led to an emergency exit door, and they would store stuff in that back hallway. Well, now you've narrowed down the exit to like 1.5 to 2 feet, which is very dangerous. You know, God forbid there's a fire or other emergency where people have to exit quickly. That's it, you know, the thing you run into when it's a mixed between event space and storage. But like I said, in this particular, let's just say I feel better about this landlord than the landlord of the other space.
I appreciate
Yeah. So, all right. Any other? Anybody from the public wish to comment on this application? Anyone online? And hearing and seeing none, I am going to close the public hearing for special use permit application number 2025-019 for Emerald Events / Emerald Exclusive Decor LLC. Okay, let me go back to the top. What's that?
I didn't see a resolution on there, was there?
I don't think we had a canned one for this one.
Just an approval.
So,
The reason we had for the other one is it was a different level of seeker event type, so we had to have done a seeker analysis. This is what I guess would be unlisted or whichever, or type two, which basically means we don't have to do all the analysis. So when it's new construction, you have to do seeker and neg deck. That's why that other one had the resolution.
Okay.
So did you want to put one forth?
yeah, Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I make a motion to approve special use permit application number 2025-019, Emerald's Events / Emerald's Exclusive Decor LLC, 2199 East Henrietta Road, to operate an event space and banquet hall.
Put the time on there?
With operating hours between 7 a.m. and 2 a.m.
Second.
And then I will note that it's for sit-down meal service, bands, DJs, or other similar entertainment and alcohol to be served.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Congratulations. Likewise, if you want to do a ribbon cutting of any kind, you can email me at supervisor@henrietta.org and we can bring in the Chamber of Commerce. They've got the ribbon, the giant scissors, whole 9 yards. All right.
Best of luck.
Best of
Hope
luck.
everything
Thank
goes
you. Yep. That completes our public hearings. Can I get my next resolution?
Bear with me for 1 minute.
Yeah, it is you.
Yep, of course. Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution 9-203, 2025 to authorize the purchase of a Godwin dry prime diesel pump for the sewer department.
Second.
So Wait, I'm one forward. Okay. Yeah, so basically what this pump is for is not all of our pump stations are on have built-in generator backups. And so if there's an extended power outage and we need to pump the sewer, what this allows us to do is it's an external pump that can be hooked up and run the pump station. It'll pump right from the well right into the force main, so that we don't have issues. So that this is primarily for the pump stations that do not have the built-in gas backup generator.
Do you know how offhand, how many don't have that? I thought we would want all those at one time.
We are doing it for all of the pumps that activate quite regularly, but there are a handful of smaller stations around, especially as you're starting to see, I'll refer to it as some of the less prime land be developed. And one of the reasons that those are developed later is because of their topography. I have to have these pump stations. So, again, if it is one that there's a lot of use on it, then we do require the backup generator. But for instance, the new one going in on Lehigh Station Road does not have a gas backup generator because it's serving 5 houses. So there's plenty of capacity of storage in the well, and in the pipe coming into it also serves, the main coming in also serves as storage. So there's also the one right now on Middle Road. If they ever build the senior housing community, then we would require them to put in the backup generator. But right now it will serve maybe 5-6 houses back. So
That makes sense.
yep. So it's ones like that where it's just, maybe a dozen homes. So there's going to be a new one going in. Again, same thing over in the southwest portion of town. Again, it's serving about 5 or 6 homes. So any other questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution 9-204, 2025, to authorize the purchase of propane port truck for the highway department.
Second. So we went with propane because this will also operate outside. We had taken a look at the hydrogen fuel cell based ones out of Plug Power right here in Henrietta. But because it's also going to operate outside in the winter time, those ones aren't well rated for outside cold. Basically, we've been using a loader with fork attachments. That's a much bigger piece of equipment, harder to maneuver inside the garage when we get shipments and have to put them up on the upper shelf. But we'll also be able to use this to take like the Salter trucks off of the storage and drop them onto the beds of the truck. So it'll make for safer operation than using the loader. Any other questions? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 9-205, 2025 to approve and ratify the following agreements.
Second.
So a lot of library, Memorial Day parade events here, as well as a couple getting started for our 4th of July. Any questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution number 9-206, 2025, to authorize bills payable and any associated contracts or agreements for May 8th, 2025 through today, May 21st, 2025.
Seconded.
So I'll note about $150,000 is for the town court. It's closing out a few of the one contract finishing up. Excuse me. The court's getting very close to being done. We're still waiting on the exterior signage, which I believe is supposed to arrive mid to late June. Once that comes in and it's hooked up, it will officially be done. We also are replacing a bunch of concrete gutters, about 45,000 for sidewalk repairs on Pinnacle Road. The robotic mower is 33 and the spray park is about 21.
Electric, right?
Yeah, spray park is plumbing and electric. Yep. Any other questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 9-207, 2025 to formally issue a negative declaration on the seeker analysis for local law number 7 of 2025 for startup farms.
Second.
So when this local law we actually put into place last meeting, someone noted we had done the seeker analysis. We wrote it all up. Unfortunately, when I wrote the resolution, I neglected to include the therefore clause that basically said that we issued a negative declaration. So this is correcting that. Any questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution 9-208, 2025 to call for a public hearing on the proposed local law to clarify uses allowed in a special use permit and for prohibited uses in a planned commercial district.
Second.
So currently, the way the code is written, there are 3 uses that are allowed in a planned commercial district, but they're not included in the allowed uses. They're actually included in the prohibited uses. It says these uses are prohibited except these 3, which are allowed. That makes no sense to us. So we moved those to the allowed, and now the prohibited section says these uses are prohibited unless expressly allowed above. What we're going to have a discussion at the public hearing. Right now, motor vehicle showrooms, sales and service facilities, aka car dealerships, are technically allowed in the planned commercial district. We don't believe that's appropriate for most of the district. I actually think it would be okay at the old movie theater. Don't know where everybody else sits on that. That's going to be part of that discussion. The law is written right now to allow for those in that subset of the district. If we decide that we don't want that in there, we'll just remove that as an allowed use. But I figured it's easier to have it in there and strike it than to not put it in and try to add it on the fly. I will note that the way we typically do this with rezones, we'll have the public hearing next meeting, but we will not take action until the following meeting. So at the earliest. So I just want to cue that up if anybody has reading these minutes or listening and has opinions on whether we should or should not allow dealerships there. So any further comments, questions? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Fellow board members, I have resolution 9-209, 2025 to declare intent to be the lead agency for seeker review and call for a public hearing for proposed local law to rezone land located on Erie Station Road near 5500 West Virginia Road from industrial with specifics to residential R215.
Second. So this is the western half of what used to be the Delphi property. They had come in a couple times with some industrial use. There was a lot of pushback in the neighborhood. Since then, the developer has amended it to propose a multifamily, essentially an apartment complex. We've held a couple neighborhood meetings. The neighboring residents much preferred a multifamily solution rather than the current industrial. To make that happen, we would have to do a rezone. So again, like I mentioned with the last one, we would hold the public hearing at the next meeting in 3 weeks, but we will not act on it minimum until 2 meetings hence. Any other questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members have resolution 9-210, 2025 to declare intent to be lead agency for seeker review and call for a public hearing for a proposed local law to rezone a portion of land located at 250 Pinnacle Road from residential R120 to residential R215.
Second.
So this was a application that came to us. A developer has purchased land on the northern part of, does anyone remember the name of the church? Pinnacle Lutheran, thank you. They're looking to develop it very similarly to the apartments immediately, not apartments, sorry, townhomes immediately to the north. Those are zoned R215. This would match that zoning. They'd match again. We had a neighborhood meeting. The neighbors to the north liked the idea in general. Be the summary, their big concern had to do with drainage, and it's not even necessarily the current drainage situation has some issues. So one of the things that we've talked to the developer about is not only would he have to mitigate any drainage that he puts in, but that he would work to improve the existing drainage, essentially put in an oversized retention pond to try to pull some of that water away from the neighboring properties. So again, we have a 3 in a row for zoning changes. We would have the public hearing, the next meeting. We would keep that open, wouldn't make a decision until minimum 2 meetings hence. Any other questions, comments?
Just that at the neighborhood meeting, there wasn't a lot of objections. We were all there. I mean,
Yeah.
it was kind of unusual that people said, "Oh, it sounds," they were, I can't say happy, but they were,
Right.
They didn't seem to object.
Any other comments or feedback? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 9-2011, 2025 to authorize an additional extension of special use permits number 2023-043 and 2023-044 and incentive zoning application number 2023-001 for Green Spark Solar 5-watt AC and 1.875 megawatt alternating current commercial solar energy projects located between Middle Road and East Henrietta Road.
Seconded.
So there've been a number of things that have beyond their control that have caused delays. The first was they had to do parkland alienation. They completed that only to find out that the people who own the land between them and the road that we're gonna be building a senior housing community. They have backed out of building that senior housing community, so now there's a question. They're working to try to get the access easement, even though the folks who own the land are a little reticent because they don't know who or what is that going to impede their ability to resell that land. I've reached out to the Masons of New York to see if they would reconsider and move forward with the project. We are in need of senior housing that is affordable, and the advantage of this particular project is that they had kind of 3 tiers of senior apartments, and as a not-for-profit, as in general, they would tend to be more affordable than a for-profit entity. Hopefully we'll see that move forward. The other thing I'll say is they put in a lot of work with the neighbors. We actually had those neighbors supporting the project, which is, again, unusual. But they looked at it and said, if this is going to be developed, we couldn't ask for a better solution to go there. So I would hate to see that go away and something less optimal come in. So we'll see what we can do.
Right.
The good news is one of my fellow supervisors is actually a Freemason. And so he's offered to help reach out to they basically had a change of leadership. There's a new board. And so he's going to try to help convince the new board that they should move forward with this project. So fingers crossed.
Yep. I can say that, when they first started talking about this project, I visited their place in, I think it was Utica.
Yeah.
And it was really nice. They had the townhomes, they had the assisted living, and they had a nurse. They actually had a nursing home. Obviously it wasn't
ours didn't have the nursing,
right.
But
We
yeah,
didn't have a nursing home, but
yeah.
it was, they looked like they did a really nice job. It was really nice down there. So
yeah, hopefully we'll be able to convince them to keep going forward, but we'll see. Any other questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
I
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 9-212, 2025. To authorize the supervisor to execute a proposed Monroe County Water Authority easement on town lands located on Erie Station Road and having a tax account number of 189.02-1-8.12 and adjacent to the Erie Ridge Townhomes subdivision.
second.
So this land is what is our sledding hill. They're going to loop the water to the north of the road, which is essentially our land. They don't need the easement if it's in the right of way, but this isn't the right of way. This is the sledding hill. So won't be an issue. I don't be a problem. Sleds go right over the top of that water.
Right.
In fact, if it leaked, some of the kids might be happier. So, any other comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution 9-213, 2025 to authorize EC4B Engineering to provide professional mechanical, electrical, and plumbing design service. It is for Riverton Oaks Municipal Golf Course, clubhouse and restaurant.
Seconded.
So EC4B is our professional service of doing the MEP design. They do a really good job for the town. They come in very, very cost effectively, and they know our fire suppression systems and everything else. So, and HVAC controls so that we make sure we get systems that can be controlled centrally and are compatible with the rest of our systems. So, any other questions, comments?
I just know on the second whereas, we need to put a dollar sign in front of the amount.
Yep, good catch. All right. Any other questions, comments? And hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution 9-214, 2025 to adjust the individual not to exceed amounts for the 2024 Spray Park Masonry Building rebid awards.
Second. So when we put this together, we had some contingencies in the total not to exceed number. We didn't put those into the individual lines. And so some of the individual components came in lower. One came in a little bit higher. The total cost is still under the total amount. And it's actually not even into the contingency. But one of the, it's specifically the general contractor in masonry. They're just a little bit over. So we're going to increase their allotment. We asked them to put, there was a section that we realized, so the folks who were doing the spray park did the circular part, and these guys did the square of the building. Well, when you put a rectangle next to a circle, you end up with these wedges that aren't filled. And so we asked them to fill them. That's the extra work. But it now makes it exceed the cost. So we're just adjusting those not to exceed numbers. But again, it does not change the total being spent on the spray park. Any other questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. And I will say we're planning on opening the spray park this weekend. Although Saturday is not going to be the nicest weather. Sunday might be the better day to go. But
The ribbon cutting Saturday.
yeah. And although I suggest instead of a ribbon cutting, I'll stand between the two guns, spray guns, and you guys can shoot the town supervisor with water.
I'm in.
Fellow board members, I have resolution 9-215, 2025 to award the 2025 town roof solar bid to Green Spark Solar.
Second.
So when we redid the roof here, the project came in under budget. It turns out it's easier to do additional work than it is to adjust the original grant amount. And so we asked, because we had to remove some old solar panels, we didn't put those ones back up because they were past what I'll call the knee in the curve where they're just not producing. Would have cost more money to put them back up than the amount of energy they'd save. We had elected not to put them up. But because we have $53,000 left, roughly $53,000 left in the grant, we went out to bid and said, give us the most panels you can give us for this dollar amount. So we had a couple respondents, and Green Spark, theirs was the best. It was almost double the square footage and electrical producing capacity of the next closest bid. So,
And they are going to be responsible for our new roof, right? If when they're
That is
doing the
correct.
install.
yeah, so when they're doing the install, they don't actually even, it doesn't get bolted down. They will put down an extra layer of the thick membrane,
Okay.
put this on top of it, and then they basically put concrete blocks, and it's held down by weight. They don't, that way they don't pierce the membrane and create any risk of leakage. Yeah.
That's what I was worried about.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're very much aware of that, and that was their proposal. I said, that sounds great. We actually have, Elmer Davis Roofing is actually working on our DPW right now, so I double checked with them. They said, yeah, that's the preferred way to do it, so.
Great.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 9-216, 2025, to authorize the tax certiorari settlement with Boyd Rochester GSA LLC for 1530 Jefferson Road.
Seconded.
So one of the things our assessor does when she works on this, it took some extra negotiation on this one, but she tries to avoid any reimbursements because that's difficult for some of the other entities who would have to, the school would have to do reimbursement, the fire district would have to do reimbursement. So she works and negotiates something to try to avoid reimbursement, and she was able to do that again for this one, so. Any questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 9-217, 2025, to authorize the purchase of a trailer-mounted master mix asphalt recycler for the highway department.
Second.
So as anyone was driving on roads this winter knows, if you're driving on state roads, there were a lot of potholes. They're on state roads. We didn't have either the equipment or the authority to fix those. But understand when the residents are like, well, you know, it's in our town. I get that it's state, but you guys should be able to fix it. So we're trying to fix that. We had essentially a windfall of about $600,000 last year from cannabis tax. And we allocated that as well as the additional sales tax proceeds. One of the things we chose from the extra cannabis was to purchase this equipment as well as some additional equipment that will give us the capability to create what are called hot patch. So you're actually making new asphalt so that you can put it in the ground, because in the wintertime, all the asphalt plants are closed. And then we just had, myself and Craig Barber, our highway superintendent, just had a meeting with the New York State DOT, going over how we're going to handle the authority to do so. They're going to set up a master services agreement with us. The one thing that I will let the board know, because this is new since we had our meeting Monday, they don't have an ability through their stuff to actually reimburse us for that. But I had said something about, well, there's the POP, Pave Our Potholes program. Do you think we could do it through there? They thought that was a good idea. It just so happens that our state senator, Jeremy Cooney, is on the transportation committee. So I'm going to reach out to Jeremy to talk about, hey, can they make it? Just has to be passed before next winter, that for anybody who is authorized by the state DOT to repair potholes on state roads, that we can be reimbursed through the POP program, get it, set aside some money to do repairs. Just so they put down, I think it was 420 tons of asphalt in potholes. That wasn't just in Henrietta, that was across the county, but they said there was more in Henrietta than anywhere else. Now, they said that as like, look how much we're helping Henrietta.
Right.
I turned around and said, well, what that says to me is that the state roads in Henrietta are in the worst condition.
Yeah.
I hit one, they are.
Yeah.
And
So-
flat tire.
Right.
Lots of tire.
So hopefully, this coming winter, when we see them out there, we'll be able to take this equipment out and go patch it at a faster rate than they're able to get to, because they do have to cover a lot of roads. I will note, if the pothole is on the expressways, you're out of luck. We can't go on the expressways.
It's a great idea to have this.
And hopefully they won't be as bad with them redoing East Henrietta. They're hitting West.
Yeah, so a couple other notes on that. So right now they're redoing West Henrietta Road, or excuse me, East Henrietta Road. They are going to be redoing a portion of West Henrietta Road, but it was going to be all in Brighton. We convinced them to extend that for the section between Brighton Henrietta Town Line Road and Jefferson. So especially that area in front of Delta Sonic, which had a lot of major potholes. Next year is when they're going to redo the big overhaul of West Henrietta Road, all the way down through the Lehigh Station intersection. So
With those new roads, hopefully we don't have as many potholes.
yeah, yeah. But we'll still have all the ones on West Henrietta Road next year.
Right, right.
What's also great about this, I remember our supervisor of highway saying that, we'll be using our fillings for this.
We can use the fillings. The other thing that happens is typically when I do a paving project, I pay for a full truck. And when I get to the end, I might have a ton left. Now we can go to our fill yard, pour it out, flatten it out. It hardens, you break it up into chunks and you can use that as well to throw in.
That's great.
And it'll actually save us money on the, right now we do cold patch. Cold patch is pretty expensive and it's not the best solution. This will be a better thing. And then there's just the dad humor in me who likes the fact that we're using pot packs to fill potholes. So. Any other questions, comments?
That's a use of resources. Can we give those away to our residents? That's great.
Right.
Yep.
Just, once again, I mentioned it at the meeting the other day that, any of this new equipment, I want to make sure that we're getting all the proper training and we're using the equipment the best we can.
We are, and as we've talked about, that this will be, in for the, one of the things they all suggest, including the folks at the New York State DOT, and they did offer to help train us to operate. The SynCon who's selling it to us is going to do that as well, but this will be a senior MEO skill because they basically they describe it like cooking, that you can follow the same stuff, but if you cook it too hot, too long, too little, it doesn't come out optimal. So it does take some skill and experience to operate it well, and they recommend getting a couple people who really learn it and have them operate it.
That's great.
All right, seeing and hearing no further comments, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have Resolution 9-218, 2025, to authorize the purchase of a 2025 Johnson Butcher V65T vacuum street sweeper for the highway department.
Seconded.
So we have two sweepers. We have one that we purchased about 6 or 7 years ago-ish. And then we have an ancient one. The ancient one spends more of its time in the garage than it does on the road. So we are going to be using money from our equipment capital reserve fund to make this purchase. That will be subject to permissive referendum. So any other questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Fellow board members, I have Resolution 9-219, 2025, to authorize the purchase of Dell Pro 13 Plus laptops for the town board and the zoning board of appeals.
Second. So do these all have to recuse themselves since they're buying them for themselves? No, I'm just kidding. For the laptops are for the town board members. Someone said, why is it not 5? I have a desktop system, so I only use the tablet just to scroll through the stuff at the town board meetings, whereas these are what they do their work on, and they're they're a little deficient for doing, their town board work on, so we're gonna get them laptops.
Yeah, thank you to our finance director and Andrew of IT. We need them.
Just coming out of the pot money too.
I
thought this was part of
The
it.
cannabis?
actually, we did, yes. We allocated additional funds, yeah, towards this as well, yes. So.
Thank you to all the customers.
That's- Any other questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 9-220-2025 to acknowledge the receipt of the April 2025 revenue and expense reports.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have a second to the last resolution, number 9-221, 2025, to hire personnel and make the attached changes.
Seconded.
Any questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have our final resolution of the evening, number 9-222, 2025, to approve the Winter Garden subdivision, section 2 conservation easement per town law 278.
Second.
So, this is a subdivision that was going to be built in 2 phases. There was a delay before phase 2 was built. The original developer has since passed away, and a new developer has taken it over. One of the issues with this particular one and why it's last on the agenda, and gentlemen have had to sit through the whole meeting, is because the fire codes have changed. And these new houses put them above the 30 house limit in terms of having a single entrance. And unfortunately, there's no good way to get a second entrance in there. The way around that is to sprinkler the buildings. And so last night at planning board, they agreed to sprinkler the buildings. And so this was last, because if they didn't get approval last night, this would not have been on the agenda. So it's a pain for the clerk staff to renumber everything, hence why it's last. When you look at the conservation easements, what we did is, it didn't make sense. There wasn't good in terms of green belts for this area. So we're doing it like we've done with some of the other ones, where it's a conservation easement over the backyards, but those people, they're part of people's yards. We do have, we will take for the ponds, we will take the responsibility for all of the stormwater infrastructure, simply because it's easier for us to flush things. Chris, do we have any of the land? Let me see if the plat map's in here.
Yeah, so Supervisor, this is Chris Martin, Director of Engineering and Planning for the town. No, there is no, for section 1, there is no town-owned land. It's all privately owned by the estate of Walter Capitazzi.
And then what about for those 2 ponds in this section 2 on Northern Lights? Are any of those become town land, or is it just easements?
Just easements.
Okay, great. Any other, yeah, I've got the map open now. Any other questions, comments?
So they are sprinkling all the buildings.
They are, well, the new homes, the
The new
old
homes,
homes
right.
obviously don't need to be.
And can I just, out of curiosity, for a new home, what's the cost involved in? sprinklers.
If
for all
if you could come up and answer up here.
Good evening, board. I'm Bill Areno with Morel Builders. We have looked into it in the townhomes we're building out in Highline, in Victor, and those are running in the $10,000 range because the square footage of these are mainly two-story homes and some ranches. I would anticipate that mirror section 1, that goes up to as much as $15,000. So we're in the process of reviewing what type of systems are going to be required for those.
Okay, thank you. It's been just a question
Yeah,
we've talked about sprinklers before and
Sure.
we never had a real,
you're the first one who's doing it.
right.
Yeah.
Other than usually it's multifamily.
Sure.
Which all have to be sprinklered anyways.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you're the first single family homes that
Sure.
will have it. So
So thank you.
thank you.
Yep.
My house was almost that way because I was gonna have that elevator go to the 3rd floor, which would have required it to be sprinklered.
So you said no?
I made the elevator not go to the 3rd floor. So, any other questions, comments?
Steve,
Yep.
Kevin Wilson, Director of Building and Fire Prevention again. I did put out an email to the Department of State regarding this, and I got a late response this evening. The possibility of a concern that by sprinkling just those existing, or excuse me, the new buildings, there may be a variance, state variance still required.
Why?
Because of the Appendix D fire code, like as you discussed, it requires over 30 houses. Their answer was a little vague as far as their reasoning, other than it's been a modification to the original approvals.
But those only for section 2. Section 1 was all built. Those houses have been there for a long time.
I have a response back to them or requesting some more information. So unfortunately, I don't have a definitive answer that by sprinkling the 23 new homes is going to be allowed by the state. Apologize for the late notice, but I'm just getting this later this evening.
I will work with you guys to fight the state on this. That's ridiculous. And this is from the administration that is allegedly pro-housing.
They'll figure it out.
Yeah,
It may
that's
be
ridiculous.
Well, I understand that, but again, I just want to bring it up to your attention now that we're.
No, I appreciate you bringing it up to the attention. I'm not upset with you. I'm upset with the state. No, we can make this decision. The question is whether they're going to be able to build them or not.
Well, yeah, I'm hoping that it's just going to be a variance through the state, and they'll understand by looking over all the information that it's.
Well, I still don't
problematic
understand how it's a variance to the state because they're adding this road onto a new, and I get it. This is a change in the plans, which is if it hadn't been, if this was exactly as it was built, they could have built all these houses without sprinklers.
Exactly.
They changed the code.
Right. And so, because it says right in the law that if it's not a change in plans, then now if their argument is that, so again, it was approved in 2 sections. Section 1 was built exactly according to plan. And so they can't say that that one changed and therefore some of those houses have to be sprinklered. Is that what they're trying to say? That for people who are living, I mean, it's just a silly ruling. And then if their argument is that section 1 is over the 30 count, not building these houses doesn't change the fact that section 1 is still over the 30 count.
Right.
So it makes no sense. Again, I will absolutely write a letter in support because that's ridiculous. And I'll also reach out to the governor to say, hey, look, we're trying to get new homes. We're following the rules. That's what it states. If it's over 30, they have to be sprinklered or sprinkler, and now they're still giving us hassle. That really bugs me. That has no effect on this open space, but again, it could have an effect on whether they can get approval, whether Kevin's able to issue the building permit. But Well, thanks for letting us know, Kevin. And
I'm hoping to get a response tomorrow from them. They were actually pretty quick from last night, my original email from last night. So,
okay, if their answer is that it requires a variance and that if they and somehow don't allow it, that's crazy. I'll fight that one all the way
there's
down.
a lot of things that on this project that are equal to what it was originally. It's just lot line changes, the wetlands have changed.
Yeah, that's the big thing. The only reason these have shifted is because the rules regarding wetlands have changed. So to try to meet for that, they've shifted shifted all the housing over, which makes some of them less than the required 15,000 square foot lots, which basically means they have to do a section 278.
And there's a
So that's the
possibility.
thing is, it's the state that's caused the change in the plans.
Right.
Frustrating.
Yeah. It's a possibility that the variance will allow this project to go through without the sprinklers, so it could.
That's what I would love.
Right, and that's
again,
what I will push for that as well. And
yeah, because that will otherwise put a burden on the homeowner when they go to
Right.
buy that. So,
One night on this, Steve, Morel Builders, are the same folks that built Dunwood.
that is correct.
And those real nice houses on the other side of the golf course.
Yeah, they built some very nice products.
There's homes just on the other side, but they were beautiful.
Mike was willing to live in one of the basements.
Yeah, I like this. Yes,
I call it the clubhouse.
the basement looked good in those homes. Yeah. Gorgeous.
Any other questions, comments? Yeah, and Kevin, just going back on that, if there's needs to be a letter, if you think it would help to have a letter of support from the supervisor for doing it without the sprinklers, I'm happy to write that. And again, I'm also happy to reach out to the governor's pro housing representative to see if they'll also write a letter of support.
right, I'll reach out to the fire district as well, because I know if you recall from the Ward Hill project, everybody in town was against that secondary access road for that project, and yet the state still required them to put one in.
Yep.
I can't imagine it's any different here.
Yep. I do like at least the solution that someone had suggested is they paint pickleball court onto that emergency entrance. Make it
I'll use it
useful.
for something.
Yep.
Kind of playing.
All right. Thank you, Kevin.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Then hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Congratulations. Like I said, we'll work with you. I think I absolutely get the safety requirements. I just hate when it gets stuck in bureaucratic tape.
I think they'll change it for you.
Yep. All right. Do I have any committee or miscellaneous reports from the board?
Oh, wait.
I would just like to say, I'll go first. I'd like to say thank you to our clerical staff for what they do for all our boards, especially our town board, and getting all our meetings ready. They're on, keep us on point and have us very organized. Things come up where things change and they get it changed right away. Just want to say thank you for everything they do to keep us organized for our meetings. And then our assessor's office, going through the unofficial reviews as they did, putting that all together, Amy, Barb, and her staff. It was tremendous what they did. They made time for all our residents. I can't remember how many meetings they had, but looking at results, 78% of the people who came in for those meetings had their assessments reduced. And they actually sat down very caringly and listened to what people had to say and came up with a solution. That's going over and above what they had to do. So thank you all for doing that.
Agreed.
Very good. Agreed.
Anyone?
Yeah, the youth board got an opportunity to debrief the Hall of Fame ceremony, which I thought, as always is, was just a fantastic evening. They are perfectionists in the best sense of the word. They're always looking for ways to improve it, to be more inclusive, to make it such a great event. And of course, they're already talking about the planning for next year. I wanted to mention in particular the library board also. Their last meeting, it's so obvious the commitment that they have to the required trainings that they have to do. Reading and analyzing Robert's Rules of Order. It's probably not anything that anyone signed up for when they wanted to be a part of the library board, but they are so faithful to the role that they play. And wanted to relate a story actually that came to my attention at school the other day. Our seniors have to do a required project at the end of the year in their civics and citizenship class called the Public Policy Project, in which they identify a problem and then propose a government solution. Very often they pick the headlines from the federal level and to do a brief internet search and crank out something that's fairly superficial. But one teacher in particular has encouraged them to look in the local community. And a group of them actually kind of tag team together the idea of speed control on our local roads. And that's a topic that's come before us before. And they were looking actually at the speed limit on West Henrietta Road as it approaches the ball fields, heading north towards Erie Station Road. I wish them luck in negotiating the labyrinth that is getting New York State's attention on that. But just the commitment that they have to it is refreshing to see, and I wanted to note that.
So feel free to let them know. I'm happy to talk on that because we've approached them as well, specifically that we were trying to get them to start the 55 south of Martin Road. But I'm happy to offer them anything in regards to that in my class.
And I know it's near and dear to a lot of them because they were neighbors with the family associated with the accident there several years ago.
I attended both the school district and the ambulance board meetings. Congratulations to the school districts, a really good unanimous passing of their budget. They did a great job. They had 8 or 9 public hearings, workshops and things, and explained everything to the public. And our emergency services in this town is incredible. I mean, between the fire, the ambulance, and our sheriff, it's unbelievable. The ambulance board now, as you see, they built a new garage. They're actually the #1 transfer of patients from hospitals to home and areas, sometimes almost out of state, in all the Rochester areas. The private companies in Rochester are hurting for employees. The volunteers in our communities and the smaller communities are struggling to keep their ambulances going, but this one is the training and the expertise and things. It's really great. It's really something in our community to have those services available to us, especially as we get older, like Rob and I.
Yeah, we just had a supervisor association meeting over at the Emergency Operations Center, and I was talking with some of the folks there afterwards, and they were talking about some of the problems with the ambulance that they've had, and he says, well, not you guys in Henrietta. Just recognizing what a good job CHS does. So, that this is from the folks who coordinate the emergency operations all through the county. So, I'll echo what Rick just said.
Mike, when I go by to the golf course all the time, and the fire station over there, the training center, that's been used almost every day. I would imagine, I'm going to guess that they're training other fire departments besides our own, and
yes,
that facility has really been used to the fullest extent.
Same thing. You go by there and most all the time there's something going on there.
Today in the rain, they don't care.
Oh no, they don't come.
Yeah.
No, and they do. Like I said, they do bring people in from outside.
Yeah,
so
it's great. We're lucky here.
Departments from outside. Joe, I had a question. At the library, was there any talk about the federal funding that got cut and how much that would be if it does go through? I've heard since last week a judge ordered it that they couldn't cut the funding, but how it would affect the library if it does go through?
Yeah, the numbers that they were looking at the last time they updated was about $400,000 for Monroe County as a whole,
Okay.
divvied up among the different branches, and back of the envelope math probably puts that at $30,000 to $40,000 for Henrietta Public Library.
Thanks. I'm just curious about it. But like I said, I heard last week, the federal judge in Long Island or Rhode Island, excuse me, reverse that, and another one for the National Mediation and Conciliation Service, and there was another organization that they said they couldn't cut their funding. But okay, thank you.
I will note if you missed the press conference, we were able to execute and when I say we, I mean predominantly the Monroe County Sheriff, although there was also assistance from our fire marshal as well as the Office of Cannabis Management and other entities, but we were able to shut down one of the smoke shops that was illegally selling cannabis and other drugs. This one specifically was primarily cannabis, including some products that were more than 10 times the legal limit for THC concentration. One of the products they were selling was literally called the Death Bar, and the reason is because some people have died having it. It was something like 1,000 milligrams of THC. The legal limit, now that's for the whole bar, but like the legal limit per gummy is something like
10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's actually 5.
It's-
Yeah. But then they had some products that were 50, and this bar was 1,000.
Wow. I heard it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and basically what we did is it was a coordinated effort. So when they came in and shut down we followed, our fire marshal followed and had the building immediately locked up. They are going after the landlord to make sure that there is not a repeat offense. And I heard recently that they were considering appealing to reopen, and when they actually read the news conference and the stuff like that, apparently the landlord changed his mind.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Done.
I told you about, that,
Right.
I knew of a woman that was a landlord, and she knew, and this was 30 years ago, she knew
Right.
illegal stuff was going on in her place, and they arrested her also.
Yeah. So like I said, huge thanks, especially to the investigating officers. Unfortunately, I'm horrible with names, so I won't be able to say who they were, but they put in a lot of work. They made a lot of plainclothes purchases, built the whole case, put all the evidence together, were able to obtain the warrants, followed all the procedures. It's as much as you want to get rid of these bad actors out of your town, it's exceedingly important to me that you follow our rules of law and observe our Constitution. And they followed all that, like I said, including then they were able to obtain a warrant for some of the homes of the individuals involved, and
Rated those, huh?
and including some illegal firearms as well were confiscated.
Yeah.
So great work by the fire, or by the sheriff's department. And again, everybody, fire marshal, the Office of Cannabis Management, everybody else involved. So
Our town is better for it.
absolutely.
Yeah, I was talking to Captain Fay about that. They were very pleased with cleaning that up.
Yep. Anything else?
Hope the other ones are on notice now.
Yeah.
Makes a difference, yeah.
Do we have any discussion items or comments from the public, maybe from our interpreters or our deputy town supervisors, since they're the only ones left here? I don't know if anybody's online still. I'm going to assume that's a no. Then can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Third.
Hearing